Hi, I'm John Portella, a proud member of the Machinist Union, retired from Bath Iron Works as a sandblaster for 47 years. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is the origins of unionism in the shipyards around the country, much of it that began here in Bath nearly 200 years ago.
Shipbuilding has long been one of the most important industries in Maine, and Maine shipbuilders have a proud union tradition of fighting for dignity, fair wages, and humane working conditions going back to the early 19th century. In the 1830s, Bath, Maine had become a thriving shipbuilding center with more than 20 shipyards in a rapidly growing coastal town. In those days, shipbuilders worked from sunrise to sunset with little time for anything else but toil. There was no workers' compensation for when they were injured on the job, and there were no pensions for when they were too old to work. The ship owners and their allies attempted to justify such long workdays on moral grounds, arguing that workers would only use the extra time for drunken mischief. Labor activists countered that the sun-to-sun system was inhumane, inefficient, dangerous, and prevented workers from spending time with their families and cultivating their minds. During the summer of 1832, the fiery labor leader Seth Luther called on workers in Portland and Saco to unite and fight back against worker exploitation.
The whole system of labor in New England is a cruel system of exaction on the bodies and minds of the producing classes, destroying the energies of both, and for no other object than to enable the rich to take care of themselves, while the poor must work or starve.
But shipbuilders did not take these indignities lying down. They were some of the first workers in the United States to get organized and form unions. In the 1830s, as many as 300,000 U.S. workers got organized. Journeyman carpenters led the first strikes for the 10-hour day in Boston and Philadelphia. Although none were successful at first, strikes spread throughout the North. Then in 1840, Democratic President Martin Van Buren issued an executive order mandating that all manual workers hired through government contracts be required to work no more than 10 hours a day. Van Buren's order only applied to federal facilities like the Navy shipyard in Kittery, so privately owned shipyards were excluded from the rule, but it helped inspire shipbuilders in Medford, Massachusetts to organize and win the 10-hour day. Bath shipbuilders soon took their cue from their brothers in the Bay State. That same year, they formed Maine's first union, and a citywide movement was again launched in Bath for the 10-hour workday. The failure of previous strikes had made the men extremely cautious, but public sentiment had grown strongly in favor of a shorter workday. At a meeting of the Freemasons in Bath, a local judge even made the radical pronouncement that the day should be divided into 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, and 8 hours for God and the brethren. Facing increasing pressure from shipbuilders, in 1841, 4 partners in a firm of shipyards mutually agreed to adopt the 10-hour system. One of the firms, which was in charge of a marine railway, later adopted the system on the repair of vessels. The feeling was so strong in favor of a reduction of hours of labor that Bath workers formed a general trades union that welcomed all tradesmen. At public meetings, workers enthusiastically expressed support for the 10-hour day. All but 2 of the shipyards in Bath finally agreed to adopt the 10-hour rule, and soon it expanded citywide. In 1847, company owners attempted to break the 10-hour system, but the shipbuilders stuck together in solidarity and under heavy penalties insisted on the old hours. When the shorter days of the winter season had passed, the employers demanded a return to the old system of working from sun to sun. But the workers stood strong, and not a stroke of work was done in any of the yards for several weeks. It was the first general strike in Maine. Shipbuilder Henry T. Delano, then a manager of the Bath Marine Railway, sympathized with the strikers. When he realized that the employers were weakening in their resolve, he visited the workers in their homes and, quote, engaged the best skilled labor in town and put them to work on the 10-hour campaign. Delano's boss tried to fire him for his organizing efforts, but in an act of solidarity, his would-be replacement refused to scab. Delano kept his job. In the end, the Bath community backed the workers, and the bosses were finally forced to back down. Meanwhile, Maine workers in Biddeford, Kennebunk, Portland, and other port towns up and down the Maine coast took inspiration from the Bath Shipbuilders and also went on strike for the 10-hour day while petitioning state lawmakers to make it the law of the land. A state law instituting the 10-hour day passed in 1848, but it was riddled with loopholes. The only way most Maine workers would be able to achieve this critical reform would be through collective struggles that continue to this day.